Hey everyone, my name is Mitch Fields. I'm a local realtor, born and raised. I've spent over 30 years right here in Cumming, Georgia, more specifically the Coal Mountain community. And as the title of this video states, today we're going to talk a little bit about what it's like living in North Georgia. We're going to cover some very important details. We're going to talk about schools, parks, home values, property taxes, traffic, internet, hospitals, airports, food, where to have fun. So this is going to be a fantastic video for you if you're not familiar with this area and you're looking to relocate. All right, so first we're going to talk about the communities or the areas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull open a map. So here you can see the map. You can see this big body of water here. If you're not familiar, this is called Lake Lanier. It's huge. It's almost like an ocean sometimes. All right, and as I stated, I've spent about 30 years right here in the Coal Mountain area. But we can see Cumming, Dawsonville, okay, we can see Gainesville, Alpharetta, Roswell, so on and so forth. So here's what I would like to do. This area right here, even though it does cover a pretty wide area, this area is all pretty much considered the same. You got Silver City, Mack, Coal Mountain, Chestatee, Cumming. So this stretches from Cumming to Dawsonville. So I would consider all of this pretty much the same area. All right. Obviously, all of this is within Forsyth County, but this area specifically, I would consider all this the same. All right. Another wide area that I would consider mostly the same is Murrayville, north parts of Gainesville, Gillsville, Lula, and Claremont. I think that is all about the same type of area. Oakwood, Flowery Branch, all that's very similar. Between Beaufort and Sawnee, right here we have Sugar Hill. I would consider all of this the same area. All right. And then where we have Duluth, Johns Creek, and Alpharetta and Roswell, I would really consider most of this pretty much the same area. Yes, they are very, very distinct cities, but for the most part, these could be considered the same area. And so if you're not from this area, something to note is, you kind of have the heart of Cumming here and Alpharetta here. Really, it all just starts to kind of blend in somewhere in there. All right. And of course, over here you have Canton and Ball Ground, Macedonia. So this gets pretty, almost kind of rural out here. And that could be considered a similar area as well. All right. And not to leave out Dahlonega, beautiful town. I would really consider all of this. Dahlonega, Aurora, Garland. I would consider all that the same. Up here you have Cleveland and Yona, and Helen up here. All of that is very, very similar area. Okay. So just to give you a high level, that's kind of how I perceive everything after being here for over 30 years. This is just kind of how I classify it in my head. So hopefully that kind of helps you. Now, we've just covered several counties. We've covered Forsyth County, Dawson County, Lumpkin County, Hall County, Gwinnett County, and Fulton County, specifically North Fulton. And if you're not familiar with this area, Fulton County is pretty huge, and it kind of stretches all the way down, and it comes up to Forsyth County, somewhere in there, and it goes all the way down past south of Atlanta. So Fulton County is really, it kind of has a halfway point, and this would all be considered pretty much North Fulton, and that's what we'll cover here today in this video. Now, it would take hours and hours and hours for me to dissect and really do a really, really good job for each and every county because there's just so much to cover. So for the most part, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you some tools that you can utilize for all of these areas. And for the examples, I will be using Forsyth County, Georgia. All right. Now, let's talk about schools, one of the most important things when relocating to an area. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull up a website here called niche.com. And this is not a sponsored video. This is just a website. It's a free resource that I use and I recommend. It doesn't only share about schools, it shares a lot about the whole area. And so I'm going to show you how to use this really quick. You're going to go in and you're just going to search. And if you didn't know this, there is a Forsyth County in North Carolina. We're going to be looking at Forsyth County in Georgia. All right, so we've got it pulled up here. As you can see immediately right here on the left, Forsyth County, right below that, is the #1 best county for families in the nation, not just the state, in the nation. So if you're wondering why people tend to stay here and why more and more people are moving here, that's a good reason why. All right, we can continue scrolling down through this site. We can see we get an A+ for public schools, B+ for nightlife, so on and so forth. I'm going to scroll down here a little bit more. You can see the map where it kind of outlines the entire county. And if I click on this, I can see all of the Forsyth County rankings. Again, nationally, here's all the national rankings. And if you go down here, here's all the statewide rankings. So we already talked about, best county for families in America. It's also the #5 best county to live in America, so on and so forth. There's a few more there. And here in Georgia, #1 best county for families in Georgia, the 2nd best county to buy a home in Georgia, right? So if you're wondering about your property value and if this is going to be a safe bet and a safe investment, according to Niche, yes, all right? So there's a lot of things you can do here on Niche, not just schools. You can look at crime. You can look at all sorts of things. Again, this is not a sponsored video. It's just a good resource that I like to use. All right. So if you're thinking about moving to Dawson County or Gwinnett County, come into niche.com, search for it. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to help you. All right. Now, let's talk about our next topic. We're going to talk about some parks. All right. So in this area of what I've covered in these counties, it's a very wide area, and truthfully, there is something for everyone. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a couple resources. So if you want to hike, there's a great resource I like to use. It's called Atlanta Trails, and they have a website. I'll put that up here either as a button or I'll put it in the description. You can go to that site. It's an interactive map. You can kind of scroll around. You can look at pictures. You can find where you want to hike or trail run or all sorts of great things. Here in Forsyth County, we have a great park called Sawnee Mountain Preserve, and there is a small playground, and there's a couple different trails. One of the main attractions, if you will, is there's a trail all the way up the mountain to carry you to what's called the Indian Seats. And when you get to the top of the mountain, there's an overlook. You can just overlook the valley. It is beautiful. I've been there many, many times. So if you are relocating to this area, definitely be aware of that because it's a great time for the whole family. All right. Another resource, if you're looking to be on the lake, I'll put that link here or somewhere in the description. There's a bunch of parks, all sorts of things. There's beaches, there's playgrounds, there's some for your RV, there's some for glamping, some cost money, some don't, some are gated, that kind of thing. Just depends on where you're at. But here's a great resource for you there. All right, now let's if you want to just kind of have a quick list of some playgrounds that me and my family enjoy here in Forsyth County. You have Fowler Park, you have Central Park, you have Lanier Land Park, and you also have Eagles Beak, aka the Frog Park. We go there a lot. They have a big frog right next to the playground. Eagles Beak is pretty great. It's right next to the Etowah River. There's a big trail, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's 2 miles, paved trail right there next to the playground and everything. There's a trail that goes through the woods where you can get down to the river as well. So Eagles Beak is really fun. Like I said, we go there a lot. We can't skip the Greenway. All right, so the Big Creek Greenway is in total, it's about 26 miles long. It's in three different sections. You can technically just keep going, but you have to cross some streets and things. But it's 26 miles. It stretches from Cumming through Alpharetta and down to Roswell. So it's kind of known as a linear park. It's a paved trail, essentially, all the way through these cities. And so you can run, you can bike, you can skate, and there's plenty of places where you can stop and use the restroom. I think there's 5 locations in Forsyth County to get to the Greenway. And those are the Halcyon Trailhead, the Union Hill Trailhead, the Fowler Park Trailhead, the Bethelview Trailhead, and the Sawnee Mountain Preserve Trailhead. So there's a lot of different ways to get to and access the beautiful Big Creek Greenway. Okay, so let's talk about home values. So again, this is kind of a wide area, but what I want to do is just kind of give you some quick numbers, just so you can kind of be aware of what's happening with home values in the area. All right, so I'm going to read this off to you. In the month of June 2023 in Forsyth County, for single family homes, the median sales price was $610,000, which is actually 0.81% down year over year. Okay. In Dawson County, the median sale price was $427,000, which is up 1.8% year over year. In Lumpkin County, the median sales price was $346,000, which is up 1.9% year over year. In Hall County, the median sales price was $445,000, which is up 4.8% year over year. And in Gwinnett County, the median sales price was $430,000, which is down 3.4% year over year. And in North Fulton, in the cities of Alpharetta, the median sales price for single family homes was $695,000, which is down 8% year over year. And Roswell was $671,000, which is down 5.4% year over year. So if you want to be in this area and you don't want to necessarily pay that high price tag, you could look at some of the lower costed areas, Dawson County, Lumpkin County, Hall County, or if you just got to be in Forsyth County, just be aware that the median sales price is around that 600 mark. Okay, now let's talk about property taxes. Now, so again, depending on what county you live in, that is going to affect, right? But the median property taxes in Forsyth County is right around, most people pay right around $2,000 a year. Now, of course, this does depend on your home value. But basically for most of the surrounding counties, it's pretty much the same. But let's say if you're moving from North Fulton, you're going to see a drastic decrease in your property taxes if you're moving from, say, North Fulton to Forsyth County. All right. Something to be aware of is that this year it was kind of called a catch-up year for Dawson County, where property taxes they were lower historically because they did not stay current with the home values, and so home values really climbed a lot over these past couple years, and so Dawson County used this year as a catch-up year to get those property taxes to reflect the home values. So not a lot of people were happy about that, but that is the way the cookie crumbles. All right. So you got to be prepared. If you have a high valued home, you are going to pay some property taxes. All right. Now let's talk about weather. Okay. So again, if you're not from this area and you're relocating, you're going to be aware. You need to be aware of what's going on with the weather. All right. So I would say between January 1st and March 31st, the weather can be very, very unpredictable. Usually we'll have one or two incidents of ice. We don't get snow here. We don't get that fresh powder. It's sleet, it's ice, it's messy, it's gross. All right. Usually 1 or 2 weeks of straight rain during the months of January and March. Also, you'll probably have a really hot day and a really, really cold day. So it's really unpredictable during that 3-month period. Outside of that, we'll usually have a storm season between May and October. You could see some hail, but definitely not like other parts of the country. Usually it's very, very small. Sometimes a few tornadoes, depending on the area that you're living in. But I would say that those are more rare. Also during the summer, it is very hot and very humid. Usually we'll have a week, maybe 2, where it's in the 90s or over 100. Outside of that, it's usually kind of in the 80s. So it's warm and it's very humid. It's not a dry heat like Arizona. It's muggy. You need a shower after you've been outside for a few hours. All right. Now, fall is pretty much perfect. Pretty much everyone around here loves fall. It's perfect weather. It's super comfortable and breezy. And there's a lot of great things to do in fall around here. I'm sure I'll make another video about that. Now, winter, like I said, we don't really get snow, we get ice. And you can Google this, the snow apocalypse. I think it happened in 2014. Just a big blizzard kind of rolled through and just shut the whole state down. That hasn't happened since 1993. So if you're from up north, Don't expect to deal with much snow or much ice anymore if you're relocating to this area, because we just don't really get it that much. Let's talk about traffic and transportation. So unless you're in Atlanta, I would say the traffic is really not that bad. I mean, depending on the time of day, rush hour and kind of where you're at, yes, there will be some traffic, but it's really not that bad. And, it's totally, in my opinion, it's totally manageable. We have some great highways. Some would argue that we don't have the infrastructure for how much, new construction and the influx of people coming from other parts of the country. Some would argue that we don't have the infrastructure, but they are working on that. But again, in my opinion, the traffic, and I've been here for over 30 years. Yes, I've seen a lot of changes, but the traffic is manageable. All right. Something to note too is that this is, until you get inside the perimeter, inside of 285, there's really not any public transportation. So if you're from a big city and you're used to public transportation, that just doesn't exist here. It's too rural. So just to kind of think about this, depending on where you are, you could be somewhere around 30 minutes to a Walmart. Now, of course, here in Cumming or in Coal Mountain, I mean, we have 2 different Walmarts to choose from, and I think they're really only about 20 minutes apart. So, and then there's another one in Dawsonville. So just depending on how far out you want to go, just be prepared. You could be driving about 30 minutes or as little as 5 minutes, depending on where you want to be. Okay, let's talk about hospitals. Very, very important. So there's a couple things about hospitals. According to U.S. Health News, Cumming, Georgia has the 7th best hospital in the state, Northside in Cumming, Georgia. And honestly, we're not really far from number 1 on that list, which is Emory down in Atlanta. We're maybe only an hour away. And so, and by Emory, there is the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. So, and we've me and my family, we've used all these hospitals. They're all great. We've had babies in Atlanta. We've had babies in Cumming. Personally, I think we prefer the hospital in Cumming, the north side, because the Women's Center is amazing. But really, you can't go wrong with either one. Also, they are building a new location to Northeast Medical Center at the end of 400. So as 400 transitions into the Dahlonega area, they're building a new hospital there. If I'm not mistaken, it should be completed here in the next couple of years. Something to note as well, just a tidbit of information, Northside in Cumming doesn't have a true trauma center. So if you're in a big wreck or something very, very significant happens to you, and you're in a very critical state, you will most likely end up in Northeast Medical Center over in Gainesville if anything happens to you in this area, because there they have a great trauma center. Just a quick personal story. I broke my leg. I broke the tibia and fibula. They came out. It was gross. I'll spare you the details, but I went to Northeast Medical Center over in Gainesville and was very, very well taken care of. So just wanted to let you know about that. Now, let's talk about airports. So Hartsfield-Jackson is a huge, huge international airport. If you've done any level of flying, you've probably heard of Hartsfield-Jackson. That is kind of the hub for Delta. And so I've flown many times through Hartsfield-Jackson. So I've pretty much got it memorized how to get in and out as swiftly as possible. And so here from Cumming, it's really only about an hour, give or take. Now, when I used to travel a lot, let's say if I had a flight at 9 a.m. or somewhere around there, I would leave Cumming usually between 4 and 4:30 just to beat all of the Atlanta rush hour traffic. Okay. Other than that, that's really the only airport. I think there's a few smaller private airports. There are talks and reports of them building an airport inside of Dawson Forest. If you're not familiar with Dawson Forest, the city of Atlanta still owns it. That's where Lockheed and Martin were trying to build a nuclear-powered plane, and there's all sorts of great things about Dawson Forest. But the city of Atlanta still owns that, and they are talking again about putting an airport there. Personally, I'd never see it. I could never believe that they're actually going to put an airport there. It could happen. I don't think it would happen any time soon. I think what's more likely to happen is they're just going to build on to Hartsfield-Jackson. They have the space to do it. But just in case, I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. Now, let's talk about the last category, the last topic on this video, food and fun having. All right, so there's several eat, work, play type areas. I'm going to cover those very, very briefly here. We have the Cumming City Center. It's brand new. It's right in the heart of Cumming, Georgia. We have the Collection. It is over off exit 13 off Highway 400. It's been established for a few years now. Some great things over there. We also have the Outlet Mall in Dawsonville, Georgia. It's a very famous, I think it's pretty much, worldwide known, I think. It's an outdoor mall if you're not familiar with it, tons and tons of stores. And then we also have Halcyon off exit 12, which is a relatively new development. Something also to be aware of is there are two huge developments coming to Forsyth County. Number one is in the Coal Mountain area. It's about 140 acres. It's going to be called Coal Mountain Town Center, I believe. Should be coming along. It should be pretty much ready in mid-2025. So it's 140 acres. There's going to be over 200 homes, over 200 townhomes, over 300 apartments. There's going to be retail space, office space, some green spaces. I think there's even a place for a brewery. So it's going to be a great location. Definitely want to be aware of that if you're moving to the area, because it's definitely going to put a stress on the infrastructure for a little while. They're already redoing bridges and roads, getting ready for this development. Also, in South Forsyth, a place called The Gathering. It is going to be a huge development, over 100 acres. It's reported to cost over $2 billion. There's several reports. They're trying to build this to potentially attract an NHL team for Georgia. Again, it's going to rival Truist Park in Atlanta. It's going to be huge. It's also going to have a lot of new single-family homes, townhomes, apartments, retail space. So it's going to be its own community in and of itself as well. And they are, the last I heard, in April of 2023, this year, the renderings have been completed. I think it's pretty much a go, but I don't know for sure. It's going to be a big development and take several years to get completed. All right, so that wraps up this video. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you can kind of see what it's like living in North Georgia. If you enjoyed this video, all I ask is that you subscribe and hit that like button. That would help this video get out to more and more people just like you. And if you have any questions, I'll put my contact information down below. I look forward to answering any question. Like I said, I'm born and raised here. I'm a Forsyth County native. I don't really see that ever changing. We love it here. And as you can see, we stayed for a reason, and there's a reason why more and more people are moving here. So if you enjoyed this, please subscribe, please like. I would greatly appreciate that. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you so much. Stay tuned for more videos like this, property tours, and much, much more.